Okay, hi everyone. My name is Bettymaya Foott, and I'm the Director of Engagement for the International Dark Sky Association, and I'm also an astrophotographer. So I'm here to talk with you today about dark skies and astrophotography. And I want to thank the Art of Planetary Sciences, the Lunar and Planetary Laboratory, as well as Allison McGraw for inviting me here today. So this is one of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. And usually I start with this quote as kind of a challenge to thinking about darkness as something bad and scary, and challenge you all to maybe change that perspective. But today I think this quote really speaks to another important aspect of this work, which is accessibility and social justice. And I want to acknowledge that this is being recorded during a time of worldwide protests about the systemic racism in our society today. And even for me as a woman, I find that dark places are not always accessible and safe for me. And so we should challenge ourselves to consider how they might not be safe for people of color. And that recognize that it's important to work to increase access to public spaces at night. So really only when it is dark enough, safe enough, and accessible enough can we all see the stars and appreciate them while feeling safe. It's a privilege to be out there experiencing dark skies at night. And it's a privilege to see the Milky Way because most of us really can't in the world. As you can see here, these statistics kind of speak for themselves. 80% of the global population cannot see the Milky Way, and that means most people probably haven't. And 99% of US and Europe live under light pollution, and that's a huge amount of people who live without access to dark skies. So really this is something that we need to all work together to really try to bring back to our society today and make people aware that dark skies are a resource worth protecting. And dark skies are threatened by three different aspects of light pollution. And the first is sky glow. So sky glow is that dome of light along the horizon that obscures our view of the night sky. And this is caused by misdirected light scattering through our atmosphere. And here we can see the sky glow of Tucson to the right of the image, and dark skies revealing Milky Way to the left from Oracle State Park. And have you ever been driving down a lonely road at night only to be blinded by oncoming high beams that somebody forgot to turn off? Well, you, my dear, have experienced glare. Glare is when light enters our eyes at shallow angles, causing pain and restriction of the pupil and reducing visual acuity. And who here has ever been kept awake by light streaming into their bedroom window at night? I know I have, and this is a prime example of light trespass, which is when light from somebody else's property or a street light is shining into your property or particularly into your home. And we can think of light trespass actually as a private property rights issue. And all types of this light pollution are increasing rapidly. These images show the progression of artificial light at night as seen from space. And when we watch this progression, it's really not hard to imagine a future without dark skies anywhere. And light pollution is increasing at a rate of 2% per year, and that is a low-end estimate of how fast light pollution is increasing. So this is definitely a problem that needs addressing currently. Here we have a local example. Here's Tucson. A few years ago, and then just from 2018 as well, you can see that clear increase in light pollution, just even in the area where we all live and play here in Tucson. And it doesn't just obscure our view of the night sky. I mean, it does. Yeah, that's the main thing. And as astronomers and people interested in the night sky, that's probably one of the things we're all most concerned about. But there's a lot of other things that light pollution harms in our environment. So first of all, ecology. Hatchling turtles are affected by light pollution. Before artificial illumination, these hatchling turtles would find their way to the sea by orienting themselves towards the brightest spot of light in their field of view, which was typically a full moon reflected into the ocean. But nowadays, that's not the brightest thing anymore. Usually if you're on the beach, there's beachside development, there's condos, there's street lights, and those are the opposite direction of safety for these turtles. So they'll turn around and run towards that light away from the safety of the ocean. And it's pretty tragic. Already only 1 in 1,000 leatherback hatchlings make it to adulthood. So they really need all the help they can get. This is a big one. Birds are actually like moths in that they're attracted to light. This is called positive phototaxis. And not only that, they actually migrate using celestial navigational cues. So when they encounter cities and big bright city lights, they're totally confused by A, not being able to see most of what they're used to seeing in the night sky, and B, then they're attracted to the bright lights of those buildings. So birds will fly towards that light, and if they don't immediately collide with a building, they will then be kind of stuck around that light and just fly around it until they fall to the ground from exhaustion. And there's data that estimates up to 1 billion birds per year die from collisions with buildings. So this is a huge, huge issue, and something that can be fixed with just better lighting practices. So this is a really interesting one. Even trees are affected by light pollution. Trees exposed to artificial light at night bud earlier and lose their leaves later, and also have shorter lifespans in general. And you can see how the distribution of light on these trees has affected their natural cycles. Like, I find these photos to be really poignant. You can see here how that cone of light coming down from the light fixture has caused the tree to keep its leaves only in that area that have been exposed to light, as well as not changing color on that image below, not changing leaves, not losing that chlorophyll because it still thinks the day length is longer. So really, really interesting stuff. Light is pretty powerful, and something that we need to think about affecting just more than ourselves and our view of the night sky. This one's kind of obvious. We just spend a lot of money and a lot of energy lighting up things that we don't necessarily need to light up. 35% of lighting worldwide is wasted light, shooting straight up into the sky. And when we do the math, we spend about $3 to $7 billion per year on this wasted light, while we're also adding 21 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So if you're concerned about climate change, if you're concerned about the environment, addressing light pollution is actually a way to address that as well. And it does affect our own health. We are not untouched by this phenomenon. Humanity evolved on this planet with reliable cycles of light and dark, and the addition of light into what has always been darkness disrupts our natural circadian rhythm. The internal cycle, which is our cycle syncing our biological clock with the day and night cycle. And this is mediated by our hormone melatonin. So melatonin is suppressed when we are exposed to artificial light at night, and specifically blue or white light that mimics the experience to what we feel under daytime light, under sunlight. This disrupts our health, exemplified by the fact that exposure to artificial light at night has been linked with increased risk for all types of cancer. And the American Medical Association has actually issued recommendations to shield streetlights and use light that is no greater than 3,000 Kelvin in order to kind of mitigate some of these human health risks. And then heritage of dark skies. Humanity has always looked up to the night sky, right? We've always written stories about the gods in the night skies. We've We've used them to migrate across land and waterscapes. We've used them to tell time. We've used them to know when to host ceremonies, to know when to plant our crops. And astronomy was our first science because of people being able to look up and be inspired by the night sky. And so to me, it's really a tragedy to think that people around the world are losing that inspiration. They're losing that connection to the greater universe and to kind of an infinite mystery, just because we're really scared of the dark as people. But I think it's important to recognize what this darkness brings, and that dark skies are actually filled with light. You know, when you're out under a sky that doesn't have light pollution, I'm always amazed by the amount of stars and light that I can see in the night sky. So I think our heritage of dark skies and inspiration is a really important piece to consider when talking about protecting dark skies. Okay, so say I've convinced you, you're like, cool, dark skies are good, totally get that. But what about safety, right? Like, we care about safety. We want people to feel safe at night. You know, we want people to, right? If you feel safer when you have a light at night, right? There's nothing bad about feeling safer with light. But I would challenge you to say that that's not actually true. The feeling of safety with light does not actually mean you are more safe. And that really is because of glare and lighting design, and how bright light can actually cause very dark places behind it. And that glare coming into your eye can actually restrict your night vision, so you're less capable of seeing things in those dark shadows. So here's a great example. Take a second here and see if you can find the potential stalker in this image. So there he is, right there in the gateway, and he's been there the whole time. But we weren't able to see him because of that glare coming into our eye and into the camera. But once that was shielded and we blocked that direct light coming into our eye, we could see that there's really been a person there the whole time. So it is a myth that more lighting is safer, and the reality is well-designed, smart lighting is actually safer. And I like to talk about motion sensors here, specifically that if you have a light that's triggered on when there's motion outside of your house, that's a really good way to be alerted when there is potentially someone or something out there, as opposed to just having a constant source of light that actually can kind of help people know you're there and kind of help people know about the access and entryway points to your house as well. So just something to consider. And motion sensors, if you've had bad experiences with them, that they pop on way too often just if a leaf blows by, the sensitivity of your motion sensor can actually be adjusted to be less sensitive. So try that out if you've had any bad experiences with motion sensors. And luckily, light pollution has a very simple solution, and that's better lighting design. And this design has 4 elements, which is shielding, color, intensity, and warranting. So shielding is really simple. Aim our lights down instead of out into your neighbor's window or up into the night sky. Here we can see some before and after images of some unshielded lights, and then post shielding. The illumination level on the ground is the same, but that glare is incredibly reduced. And you can see that the visibility around there is probably a lot better as well. Color. So color of light, we kind of talked about this in the human health piece, but color of light is really important. We want light that is no greater than 3000 Kelvin. So anywhere on the warmer side is going to be better. 2200 is ideal, 2700 is great, 3000 is okay. And we want no greater than that, because that reduces the amount of blue light in the environment, and that type of light doesn't necessarily tell our body that it's daytime and that it's time to wake up, and hurts our circadian rhythm, as well as it mimics the natural sources of light that we as humans have had since evolution, like fire, as well as sunset light is all a lot warmer. And it's lower wavelength, so it's less intense. And it's also going to be better for the environment and the ecology around you as well. And then intensity and warranting are often overlooked aspects of lighting, because even if we shield every single light, there will still be some light that is reflected up from the ground. And to minimize this, we want to use only the amount of light needed for the task at hand, and make sure that really you actually need that light in the first place. And that's what warranting is. If a light is there just to look pretty, maybe take it out and see how pretty a natural night sky can look. And a way to kind of encode this type of lighting into your city or your town is to enact a lighting ordinance. So this is a policy that helps to regulate what type of lighting cities, businesses, and residents can have in their communities. And Tucson actually has a really, really great lighting ordinance. You may notice that our lights are pretty warm. They're fully shielded, and they're actually dimmed after 11 o'clock. They're dimmed as well. So that reduces the amount of light pollution coming up from the sky. And if you're looking about where to find this lighting, check out IDA's Fixture Seal of Approval program. There's an online searchable database where you can find dark sky friendly lighting of all types. And also you can look for this seal on lighting fixtures at your local hardware store. So the International Dark Sky Association, we are kind of the leading organization working globally to protect the night. And if you're interested in supporting us, you can become an IDA member. Just check out darksky.org. We have a local Tucson chapter as well, so you can get involved locally if you're interested. Okay, now to photography, the piece that everyone here is probably interested in. Photography is used to monitor dark skies as well. So this is data from the National Park Service. They use CCD cameras to take all sky images of the night sky and then identify the sources of artificial light at night. So on that top image, you can see it's an all sky image with every source of light, including the Milky Way, including the bright planets, sky, air glow. But then there's also a formula that they use to subtract all of that natural light, like starlight, and then you're left with just the artificial light in the environment. So that's a really interesting way photography is used to monitor and track dark skies in the national parks as well as other places. Photography is generally used to document sky glow as well. I took this image up from Dead Horse Point State Park outside of Moab, Utah. And I've shown it to a lot of people and they're like, wow, look at that sunrise. That's a beautiful sunrise. And that's not the sunrise. Actually, that's sky glow from the small town of Moab, Utah. And you can just see how bright even small town light pollution can be in the environment. Photography can be used to document lighting changes. So here we can see some before and after photos, really illustrating how better lighting practices can make for a better lit environment. So this top image, there's light shining into your eye, into the tree, into the night sky. And then once those are shielded, the trees are a lot less lit up and the ground is so much more uniformly lit. So photography is a great way to show how lighting, how to document lighting changes and to show people that we're not trying to just make it dark, we're just trying to light in a better, more intelligent way. And this same woman took those before and after images, has also used photography to help build support for dark skies in her town of Rappahannock, Virginia. She won a grant and took different images of the Milky Way behind different homes in her community and then was able to give prints of these beautiful images to these homeowners. And you can imagine if you're given this picture of your home with a beautiful Milky Way behind it, like you're probably going to want to protect those night skies and keep them dark. So I thought that was a really great project of using photography as a way to inspire and protect dark skies in local areas. Okay, so how do you do it? How do you take pictures of the night sky? It's pretty simple. When you are taking a picture of the Milky Way, I mean, this is an astronomy audience, so I probably don't really need to talk about this, but we're here. And in the summer, we're looking towards the center of our galaxy, which is that bright center bulge of stars. In the winter, we're looking out away from the night sky, out away from that center and into the more faint arms of the Milky Way. And you really don't need too much specialized equipment. A DSLR or mirrorless camera is great. Sturdy tripod is key. Wide angle lens, so 50 millimeters or wider, which is actually a smaller number. And then a fast lens, so f2.8 is ideal. But if you have a 3.5, no worries, you'll still be able to capture some beautiful night sky images with it. You just might eventually want to invest in a wider lens when you kind of get more into it. And optionally, you're gonna want an intervalometer if you're gonna wanna do time lapses. And here's the general formula that I shoot. Typically, you're gonna wanna be anywhere from 1600 to 6400 ISO at 10 to 30 seconds with your aperture as wide as possible. 2.8 or less is ideal, but again, 3.5 is okay. And your white balance, typically around 4250 to 4600. And for moonlight, I typically shoot around 5000 Kelvin. And be sure when you're shooting that you shoot in the image type of RAW, because that's going to give you the most amount of data to work with when post-processing. So to focus, this is probably the hardest part of astrophotography. And once you get this down and practice kind of your settings and formula, like really, it's not that hard. The hardest part is finding dark skies to shoot. So to focus, make sure your lens is on manual focus. You're not going to be able to autofocus on stars. Preset your lens to infinity focus roughly. Enable live view on your camera, which means that the image is showing up on the back of that screen. And center a bright and distant object. So typically in the night sky, that's going to be a planet. Jupiter is a great one nowadays. So find Jupiter in your live view, center that, and then zoom in using the camera zoom, not your lens at all. You're not trying to zoom your lens. You're zooming in just with a little magnifying glass button on the back of your lens that just zooms in your view till you have that as zoomed in as you possibly can get it on Jupiter. Then you're just going to adjust your focus manually until that point of light becomes as small as possible. And a good way to know that you're approaching infinity focus is that if you see other dim stars appearing as you are adjusting your focus. So yeah, this is the hardest part and it's going to take some practice, but once you get this down, you'll be able to shoot stars anytime you want. So finding the Milky Way, again, this is probably an astronomy audience here, so I may be, this may not be necessary to address, but you know, finding the Milky Way is difficult for some people, especially if they've never had dark skies in their life. So it will typically, the core will always be in the south. Earlier in the season, it will be more southeast, and the Milky Way will be a low spanning arch, kind of reaching around 35 degrees into the sky. And this will be visible at like 3 in the morning, really, really early in the morning. Later in the summer, the Milky Way is going to be south and a little bit more southwest, the core at least. And it's going to typically kind of shoot straight up into the night sky and be more of like a vertical line. And that's going to be visible kind of just as soon as it gets dark as well. So here we can see kind of the differences in the summer and the winter Milky Way. Summer, you get that bright, beautiful core, which all of us astrophotographers tend to chase. And winter, you get that fainter, more delicate Milky Way look. And I tend to gravitate more towards like the larger constellations like Orion when thinking about composing an image in the winter. And something else to think about is the different time of night to shoot. So blue hour is one of my favorite times to shoot. It is when the sun is 12 to 18 degrees below the horizon. And that's like kind of right after sunset, but I just typically start shooting blue hour as soon as you can see all of the stars in Scorpius. And that is when there's enough light from the sun as it's setting to keep that sky blue, but it's set far enough that it's dark enough that you can see the Milky Way. And I just think it's magical. But then true dark, here below you can see that's when the Milky Way really pops. And you can see all the beautiful colors in the Milky Way, as well as the incredible colors of air glow in the night sky, and the different kind of colors of the nebula. So yeah, just fun things to play with when shooting. Here's one of my favorite recent images I've taken during blue hour. This is around Moab, Utah. And what I love about shooting blue hour is not only is there enough light to make the sky blue, there's enough light to keep your foreground illuminated. So during a new moon, this would be really hard to shoot, right? If the sun had already set and there's no light from the moon and it's totally dark, this canyon would be pretty dark. And you might have to do 2 separate exposures to get enough starlight to illuminate your foreground, and then another exposure that's less time for your night sky. But during blue hour, it's a perfect way to get a single shot exposure of both your foreground and the night sky. Another thing to think about is the moon. When I first started shooting, I pretty much only shot during the new moon because that's what I was like thought would be the best time to see the night sky. But I have now really turned to start loving moonlight, and I shoot a lot more of moonlit landscapes with the Milky Way as well. But here you can see just kind of how the moonlight illuminates scenes differently. During a full moon, it pretty much looks like daytime, but with stars. And then during the new moon, you get those beautiful silhouettes with the bright night sky. And here's another image again from that same location of my blue hour shot. But this is when the moon is rising, and the moon is actually at about 73% illumination here. And you can still see an incredible amount of the Milky Way. And you get those beautiful, beautiful shadows and light on your foreground. So I would say don't avoid the moon. Use the moon, use it to light up your foreground instead of, shining bright artificial light out there. Use natural moonlight. You'll be happy with your results. Here's another one of my favorite images that I've taken. This was about 83% moon illumination here in Moab as well. This was during a time lapse that I had set up overnight in this field of flowers and beautiful mountain foreground. And this deer just kind of walked by and walked into my time lapse, and I think must have heard a clicking sound. And so I think maybe deer in headlights, stared at it for a minute scared. But that 20 seconds was really great, and I was able to capture him. And this is just a single exposure. And it wouldn't have been possible without that moonlight to illuminate that foreground. Here is the time lapse of that. And we can see the Milky Way moving across the sky, clouds coming in front of the moon, causing shadows. And then as the moon starts to set, we can really see how the light changes in the landscape. It gets really, really dark. And we're only left with starlight until the sun begins to rise again. Here's another one of my favorite kind of moonrise time lapses, and it shows just how well the moon can illuminate the foreground in vast desert landscapes. So this is Dead Horse Point State Park. And we can see, here the moon, before the moon's rising, that landscape is very dark below. And then as that moon rises, it begins to illuminate the beautiful canyons in the foreground and make the night sky really blue as well. So definitely fun to play with. I would say don't avoid the moon, use it. Oops. And the moon's also great for star trails. So if it's too bright to see the Milky Way, you can get some beautiful star trails and foreground illumination using the moon. Here is a time lapse down in Marble Canyon of the North Star staying in place, and Earth's rotation really being illustrated here with those lines of stars. And that's pretty easy to capture. I use a program called StarStax, and it's free, so that's cool. And so you're just gonna wanna use an intervalometer or a built-in intervalometer if you have one on your camera to take images one after another. And it's pretty much the same settings that you use for Milky Way that we talked about earlier. Maybe a little bit lower ISO if you have a lot of moonlight, or shorter exposure time, but you're just going to take as many as possible one after another and then use StarStax to stack those images, and it creates those star trails for you. You can also just set a lower ISO and a lower aperture and do a really long exposure, but I tend to like to take multiple exposures and stack them because it reduces the noise, as well as you can stack a fun time lapse like this and watch the star trails grow, which I think is pretty cool. Then this is that set of images unstacked. So you can just see how the night sky, the stars are rotating in the sky, the clouds are coming over. Then we take this series of images and stack them to create those star trails. And another fun thing to experiment with is panoramas. So this is, you will set up like a normal exposure, make sure you level your tripod, turn your camera from portrait, landscape to portrait, and then take a series of images with a 15%, 15-degree overlap, if that makes sense, or just at least 50%. You want at least 50% of one image to be in the next image for your panorama to adequately stitch. And a lot of tripods have little markings that as you turn, and I tend to go 15 degrees at a time, using those little markings on my tripod to know what my overlap should be. And I love panoramas because they really show you the depth of your scene and can bring about just a better field of view for the expansive night sky. So like here at Dead Horse Point, you can see this image wouldn't have been possible using just one single image. This is a really, the night sky is huge, so you want to be able to capture as much of it as possible, and a lot of times panoramas are the only way to do that. I also think it's really fun to add human subjects into images as well, that really kind of add a sense of scale and personality and depth to the night sky as well, just kind of showing you how dwarfed we are as people by this incredibly vast and large galaxy that we're capturing. And then another really fun thing to capture is air glow. This is that emission of light caused by charged particles in our atmosphere that you can't see with your eye. You can only see it with a camera, but here in this time lapse we can watch it ripple across the sky. It's that green and red. And there's that sunrise making it blue. But something fun to think about. So if you see a lot of green or red in your night sky, you're not doing something wrong, you're capturing some really cool atmospheric phenomena. Something else fun to try to capture is meteors. We just had a great meteor shower. The Perseids, which is known for its fireballs, and here we can see one of the fireballs captured right through the core of the Milky Way. And this one I just took in Moab. This Perseids, I was really excited to get this beautiful meteor in my 14mm, which is pretty wide. So this was a pretty big meteor to be that large in a 14mm frame. And then this was something crazy that I captured in the Geminids last year, which is a wiggly meteor. I had never seen one of these before, and these are pretty rare. But they do happen, and if you have any pictures of wiggly meteors, please share them. I know Babak Freshi is actually collecting images of wiggly meteors as well, so feel free to send them to him and the World at Night. And then finally, I just want to take a moment to invite everyone to our first ever Women in Astrophotography Happy Hour. That's going to be October 1st. So if you're a woman and you're interested in astrophotography, or you are an astrophotographer, please join us. This is just kind of the first attempt to get everyone together and chat about how we can support bringing more women into this field. We have an Instagram, it's at Women in Astro, so give us a follow, and the link to register is in the bio there. So thank you so much for listening and tuning in today. Here's all my contact information. I would love to hear from you. You can find me on Instagram. I have a website, and you can shoot me an email to my personal Gmail as well. If you have any questions or any follow-up, I believe we're going to do a question and answer session after this, so I look forward to chatting with you all. And again, I just want to say thank you for your interest in protecting dark skies. Thank you for your interest in capturing images of the night sky. For me, it's been the best way to communicate the night sky and its meaning to people, and hopefully help raise awareness and bring protection to this incredible resource that we have, especially here around Tucson and around the world. So with that, thank you again, University of Arizona, Lunar Planetary Lab, and Allison for the invite. And I look forward to chatting with you all after this, and happy shooting.